about 2 weeks to go, and I'm sure that a lot of people are all about travels at the moment and getting gifts, for children and, for friends and loved ones all over the country. It's an interesting moment. We are seeing the cost of things, as usual, rising high, day by day. And also, we'll be talking about insecurity in the country today. And we were asking the question whether or not government is alive to its responsibilities of protecting lives and property. And we will be joined by experts in the studio to talk about this issue. We also have Nuruddin, editor, 21st Century Chronicle, talking about Nuruddin Abdullah. He will be giving us perspectives on the stories that made the headlines on the show today. Quite a lot you don't want to miss on the show. For now, let's take a look at the events of 17th of December in world history. Well, there you have it today in history, highlighting some important facts in world history. Now, back in 2010, about 10 years ago, something happened in the Arab world, which is now referred to as the Arab Spring. It started in Tunisia, and one man was responsible for that, a street vendor known as Mohamed Bouazizi. He set himself up ablaze. Yes, and then out of protest, he decided that, look, the difficulty in the country is quite much, and he is aggrieved by the way security officials treat, some of the street vendors and the, economic hardship in the country at the same time. So he decided, look, I've had enough of this. And then he just set himself up ablaze, and that's quite tragic. That ignited a whole lot of things in the Arab world, beginning with Tunisia and then moving to Egypt, and then, of course, Libya and the rest of them. So it's now known as the Arab Spring. It's something you shouldn't forget. It happens in world history. Well, another thing that is, being commemorated today is known as International Day for Ending Violence Against Commercial Sex Workers. That's quite controversial, if you look at, the concept of commercial sex workers and all of that. But hey, let's get opinions. Z is here in the studio. Z, hello, good morning.
Good morning, Nigerians. I'm particularly interested in this because, given the fact that they are sex workers doesn't mean they should be violently treated. I know a lot of people are going to see this as quite absurd, but for many people, sex workers have this tendency for violence coming upon them, and it's really important that we talk about this day, that we celebrate this day, to advocate against it, and to also you're just looking at me.
Well, I'm not sure what to say exactly, but yes, in light of what you said, looking at it from the context of these are human beings. So yes, we want everyone's safety, regardless of whatever you do.
Yes.
Which is why even as criminals, if you are shot by the police in the process of exchange of fire, the first thing, if you are still alive, is to take you to the hospital, get medical attention for you, and then you will be charged eventually when you are, when you are healed. So yes, in the context of human beings, yes. But then again, if you look at another angle, is the fact that, as a commercial sex worker, you know that you are going to be meeting with people that you do not necessarily know about.
Professional commercial sex
Yes, yes. You are putting yourself on the lifeline. On harm's way rather. So if you are getting into such things, then you should be prepared, to face whatever it is that comes with it.
Commercial sex work is one of the most difficult, jobs to do in the world. I always say this because you get to be meeting people you've never seen before. You don't know where they're coming from, and there's just a whole lot that comes with commercial sex work.
Yes, and I really marvel, really, if you look at, say, for instance, when COVID-19 started, from the beginning, there was lockdown. But commercial sex workers were not locked down. Yes. If you go on the streets, you still see them. I mean, what kind of guts? You're not even afraid of your life.
It's a business.
This is a virus that the world over, nobody knows about it. And even the World Health Organization is still looking at what scientists are doing and how, a vaccine can be, come up.
But you know what very weird thing is, I actually spoke to some few sex workers at that time, and most of them told me that they have their face masks, they have hand sanitizers.
Interesting. I wonder if face masks can actually protect everything. You know what I mean? All right, well, let's take a quick break, and then we'll take a breather before we start looking at the stories that made the headlines this morning on our papers. And like I told you, we have the editor, 21st Century Chronicle, Nuruddin Abdullah, who will be giving us perspectives on the stories that made the headlines. Stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a look at the
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
All right, now we will begin with the Daily Trust newspaper on Daily's On Daybreak today, this morning. And some of the stories are quite interesting. The lead story talks about Auditor General uncovers multi-billion naira fraud in National Assembly. The story has the riders, 3 billion naira in Senate, 5.5 billion in House of Assembly. That's the House of Representatives. It's shocking. Lawmakers are breaking laws. That's according to Rafsanjani there. Now below that, you see also lack of trust, major challenge in COVID-19 vaccination. That's according to the Sultan. You'll find that on page 5. Then Tiamin's 18 billion naira rice farm in Bauchi to employ 1,000 youths. Insecurity, BG Emirate holds special prayer today. And then you see also why we gave Buhari's son title, Emir of Daura. Other stories there at the top. Gunmen kill father, 2 sons in Benue. And that's on page 63 of Daily Trust. The next story, why APC should postpone February convention. That's according to Kalu. Explain sources of your wealth. Adebanjo tells Akonde and Tinubu. These are the stories that made the headlines on Daily Trust today. Quite rich. You will want to pick a copy of the paper to have a glance of what is really going on.
Okay, let's take a look at some of the stories on the Punch newspaper this morning. The lead story there, AGF writes Buhari says mandatory direct primaries will cause confusion. The writers there, Malami's office sent its position 2 weeks ago, says Minister of Justice source. Another rider states constitutions of parties stipulate direct or indirect. Amendment will be difficult. You'll see on page 2 of the Punch newspaper, Buhari snubs calls to visit North, jets out to Turkey with wife, 7 ministers. This has generated quite a lot of, controversies and outcry from Nigerians, and you find details of that story on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. On page 29, you'd see NJC sanctions 3 judges for conflicting rulings, 1 on watch list. On page 19, you'd see FAN suspends workers as car confronts landing plane on Lagos airport runway. Oh, that's quite tragic. And on page 26, federal government warns Nigerians as COVID-19 cases rise by 630%. in 10 days. Insecurity threatens 2023 polls, says Jega. VP inaugurates Ajimobi Center. And still on the Punch newspaper, right on page 19, you'd see governors vow to review federal government's proposed privatization of 10 power plants. You'd also find on page 9, salary deductions, fighting monarchs cost you election, not rigging. Oyilola replies Akande. And on page 4 and page 5 of the Punch newspaper, hoodlum arrested for kidnapping Ondo female worshippers during vigil, others held. That's quite tragic. This is going to, put a lot of scare in people going for night vigils in churches. And on page 23, You'd see Bakers Association storms Lagos Assembly, decries harsh policies. These are some of the stories on the Punch newspaper.
All right, let's take a look at The Guardian today. Here we have some of the stories, raising some concerns, really. Like the lead story says, concerns as hope deems for amended electoral bill. And the writer says, Buhari departs Abuja for Turkey Africa Summit, returns on deadline day. Lawmakers proceed on Yuletide recess. Turkey trip stalls National Assembly leaders. Last effort to save amended bill. Fate of Ekiti. Osun governorship polls hangs over stalemate. And then you would see also below the pictorial, Nigeria at war. SBM report reveals. The story has the following writers: 964 security agents, 3,071 non-state actors killed in 1 year. Nigeria, a failed state at war. Northern Elders Middle Belt Forum slam Buhari. At the very bottom, you see Adebanjo, George, allege Akonde on mission to cause disunity. And then you see also at the top there, NHIS canvasses 1 kobo per second telecoms charge for health coverage of vulnerable Nigerians. Lagos indebted to retirees by over 30 billion naira, says pensioners chair. Also, Emir decries 50% of land taken over by terrorists, warns of food crisis. Court orders arrest of Imo deputy speaker over alleged 75 million naira fraud. These are the lead story. So yes, the lead story quite worrying, really, when you look at what is really going on. It's just barely. I mean, the assent to the electoral bill is almost by the president is about to, I would say, elapse.
Sunday.
Yes, and we're not sure what's going to happen. The National Assembly, yes, the lawmakers have the power to veto the decision of the president, but whether or not they will do that, that's entirely a different conversation, especially if you consider the fact that they are going on a recess. So what happens, to that? Well, let's see. We'll get perspectives on that much more on the program. Let's take a look at other papers.
Okay, let's take a look at one more paper before we review some of these stories on these dailies today. Now, the Nation newspaper leads with a story: conflicting orders. NJC bars 3 judges from promotion. And the writer there, Justices Bassam Umar, Confrere affected. And you'd find on page 5 of the Nation newspaper, don't back any presidential aspirant. PDP bot tells IU. And on page 2, you'd see Lawan, Baja, governors, others greet Buhari at 79. And on page 6 and page 28 of the Nation newspaper, UK resumes visa application proceeding. It also see Access Bank shareholders approve holdco. So these are some of the lead stories of the Nation newspaper.
All right, well, we have in the studio Nuruddin Abdallah, editor 21st Century Chronicle, in the studio to give us perspectives on this stories. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you very much.
Well, very interesting stories. Let's begin with the lead story on the Daily Trust, talking about the, uncovering of, billions of naira, it's a fraud in the National Assembly. Are you surprised by this?
No, not really. If you analyze the history of the National Assembly, particularly from 1999, you understand? Only that the reports, every three years the Auditor General releases a report or submit a report. You understand? This to 2019. You understand? The one that have been around was that of 2016. So it's not surprising because the Auditor General's report confirms what many Nigerians, particularly the civil society organizations, NGOs, have been saying, that the National Assembly is opaque. You understand? Their finances are not, the way they expend their finances are not in the transparent way. It should be in line with Buhari's administration. You understand? And basically, if you look at the reports center on mostly one thing: procurement of vehicles for the lawmakers. If you look at most of the monies were expended during 2019, this assembly came on board June 2019, you understand, the long late assembly. And immediately, you know, when they come, it's about allowances, furniture allowances, and vehicles. If you look at the report, about 1.7 billion was expended. And when the auditors went there, the vouchers were not even made available to them. That has been the practice in the National Assembly. But unfortunately, again, this is the same National Assembly that is crying or invoking fire and brimstone over some agencies. You understand? Asking in the past, you know, there are even instances where the National Assembly directed the president to sack one head of agency or the other. During the Jonathan time, the prominent one was that of Oruma Ete of the Security and Exchange Commission. So that is the, in Hausa we call it somebody who is on guard, you know, then he was caught dozing. But with this, the National Assembly should come clean. Why are they not allowing their books to be scrutinized by the auditors?
So with this, you know, coming on the surface, what does this really say, you know, about them? You know, will there still be that confidence, you know, by the people in them?
Over the years, the confidence Nigerians have from the National Assembly has been eroded in the most horrific way. Just last week, the Senate President is saying they are one of the least paid in the country. But that's not all true. Yes, if you look at with the dollar now going up to maybe 700 or so, but compare what they earn with the GDP per capita. The National Assembly, what is the percentage of what they earn of the GDP? This story was done long ago. The economy started it some years back. Our own was almost more than 50% or so. Whereas if you take UK, Canada, and our state, just 2.something% of the GDP. So if you share the GDP per capita, you understand that they are taking a lot.
All right, now if you juxtapose this, I mean, this is happening barely a few weeks when the ICPC also raised alarm that there were about 20 billion naira repeated projects in the 2021 budget, and a lot of issues about, corruption in the civil service, recruitment without any, due process. How positioned is the National Assembly to play that role of checks and balance, especially when it has such issues?
It's very difficult, to achieve that, because remember how many props do we have in the last maybe 6 years? Dozens of them. Where are the reports? When Obasanjo left office, you remember the Elumelu prop panel on power? That 16 trillion or so was wasted. Who is held accountable? There is nobody that was held accountable because of that. The subsidy prop. There are all manner of props. The National Assembly will do it. It will carry. Just look at it. You remember the lawmaker from Kano is in jail over that subsidy prop. Remember, because he wanted to obtain bribes to doctor the report. So Nigerians, even though if the National Assembly spent about 150 billion out of the over 10 trillion national budget. If you look at the percentage and if you look at it's not much. But the problem is oversight function. Just take constituency projects. That's what the ICPC is saying. The good guys among the lawmakers are those who will go and do boreholes in their private farms, who will do roads in their private farms, but the others will just pocket the money. But unfortunately, before the Buhari administration came on board, this has been a recurring dismal. We thought that maybe when he came, but unfortunately, based on what ICPC is saying, it is almost doubling or even tripling.
Okay. So do you think like a form of reformation is possible in Nigeria?
Pardon?
Do you think like a form of reformation is going to be possible in Nigeria?
Yes, it's possible, but our leadership selection process has to change. Then, no matter how good you are, if you don't have money, if the godfather from your constituency doesn't endorse you, you can get elected. So stooges or political power blocks are being sent to the National Assembly. You understand? I know someone in Kaduna, he was denied ticket because he said that in Hausa, Turanci Shiyaya. What it means is that, he is too educated to be controlled. So that's the problem. So most of these power brokers, they prefer people who are lowly educated, who can't challenge them. Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, man. So that is it.
All right. Now, when we look at other papers, like The Guardian also is leading with the story about the electoral amendment, So if you talk about, the process of our electioneering needs to change, one instrument that will make that happen is the electoral amendment. And now, that bill has been sent to the president, and the president is nowhere to sign the bill. And so what do we even expect, going forward? The day is going to elapse by Sunday.
The president is a politician, first and foremost. He contested the election and won twice. So when it comes to electoral act, that is the first thing he considered. And, since the Senate, the National Assembly actually are the promoters of this, there are two things, basically. Or one thing even, not even the transmission, electronic transmission, that has been dealt with. And it has been exemplified in some off-season elections that we had recently, that of Anambra, for instance. But the most contentious issue now is that of primaries, direct or indirect. My thinking is this: political parties should be allowed to decide which model they pick, because you are overburdening the INEC.
Isn't it the current arrangement as we have it right now?
No, it's delegate arrangement, fewer numbers. But now, if, for instance, the president assent to the bill as proposed by the National Assembly, it means that in Hausa we will do what they call Katu buying Katu. And that mode was the one that almost crippled CPC in 2011. It is still an opportunity. What that simply means is you spend more money. Instead of dealing with fewer delegates, now you will deal with large an army of
yes,
people.
but isn't our democracy the better for it? If you look at, the issue about the indirect primaries that we have right now, as to this issue about people just buying their way into representing parties and all of that.
Indirect primaries, as they are conversing now, Mike, it's not a magic one to the problem we have at hand. Look at based on experience, CPC did it. What did they end up with? Confusion. And Mike, Look at even, can I call them maybe greater democracies? In the United States, they're even doing collegiate elections. So the number of people who will tackle insecurity in the country, and what if you? And still, money bags are the same people that will send buses and load people and give them maybe 1,000. If delegates, for instance, are getting 50K, now maybe the thing will be democratized. The bribe will be democratized.
Yeah, so isn't it what the direct primary is, set out to change? Looking at the fact that if you are dealing with a larger number of people, it's much more difficult to try to, buy their votes and all of that. So you do not share that thought that, maybe the direct primaries is the way to go?
I don't think so, because INEC will supervise. How many, if you are doing it at the ward level, how many thousands of votes do you have across the country? INEC official will be there. Look at the finances. Look at the security. Look at even the logistics. My thinking is, even the National Assembly members that are trying to push this thing, they are not doing it because of you and me. They are doing it because most of them they are not in good time with their governors. Some of them, by 2023, they want to contest as governors. Some want to return back to the National Assembly. But their governors, maybe they have told them, no. So that's it. Even at that, the governor still has an upper hand. Mind you, he's sitting on top of a public post. If you're a senator or you're a minister, to bribe those thousands of people or even millions of people, you have to get money maybe from your pocket.
So I say neither the direct or indirect is what we are supposed to be adopting right now.
I don't think, if, for instance, the status quo will be preserved, I think, because one, you are dragging INEC into a more confusing and painstaking.
Yeah, but INEC is not saying that they have a problem with that.
Yeah, INEC may not say it, but we know they do. Normal elections, for instance, how many ad hocs do they pick? Do they take? If you are doing direct primaries across the country, how many ad hoc staff will take? Where will they get the money? So that's my thinking.
So how do we sanitize the electoral process if the issues of whether direct or indirect primaries is not really the problem? Where lies the problem?
Like I said, it's not even about political parties themselves. What's the difference? Zainab may be in PDP today. If she can't get what she wants, tomorrow you will see her in APC, and vice versa. Tell me the manifesto of PDP or the manifesto of APC. Unlike what we have, for instance, in the US, there are certain things applicable to Democratic Party. There are certain things applicable to Republican Party. But here there is no such things. Electronic voting is a one-way of sanitizing the system. But the way they are trying to do it now, we will end up maybe with what we had during the Obasanjo third time. The electoral act was amended, but because of that single issue, the whole system was thrown away. They throw the baby with the bath water. The most important thing now is the electorate must be sensitized to know their rights. What is that right? Holding their representative accountable. How will they do that? If you are a local government chairman, for instance, we know how much you get every month from the federal account. We have the power to know how much IGR you and what you utilize it for. And they should be held to account. That is the first stage forward. But what we have now is you will have a governor that he thinks that he's doing a favor. He does a culvert, which can be done maybe at 200,000, and he does it at 10 million.
So, okay, now, but are you concerned about the likely constitutional crisis that we could, have as a result of, the president possibly not signing that act before it elapsed on Sunday. And if he is to do that after it elapsed, what's the implication of that, for our Constitution?
From experience, the National Assembly will not veto the president. It has never happened. That's it. What they did was intense lobbying. The Attorney General, there was a report today that the Attorney General, who is the chief judicial officer of the president, has written his position to the president. And the president will be mostly guided by that, because they have to look at the pros and cons. As president, you can't just assent to anything. You have to look at even the financial implication. You have to look at the even security implication. Southeast, go to Zamfara, and what if you? Some of the local government are under the control of bandits, and you are saying that you will do direct primaries. You are creating a platform for anarchy. You understand? So that is it. So the way the National Assembly will not veto the president. No.
Particularly in the interest of Nigerians. Is that in the interest of Nigerians, really? Because that's what we are all about here.
What I'm saying here is this. Indirect primaries, is it in the overall interest of Nigerians? No. It is in the overall interest of senators, House representative members.
Yes, but we cannot conclusively say that. We cannot,
that is my understanding. So if the president, there are more germane issues that they should have vetoed the president, but they never did. So the president will just send it back, and you'll see, and nothing will happen. And I think this is the first time that that they send it to the president. So there should be back and forth.
But doesn't that undermine, their power as a National Assembly?
The same National Assembly that uncover multi-billion naira fraud, the same National Assembly that they are withholding vital financial documents to the auditors. So that is it. The same National Assembly members that are pocketing billions in the names of constituency projects. I read a story just recently. A member parked motorcycles and whatever in one store for more than 5 years. He refused to share it. Constituency project, the corruption there, is in the regime of trillions, as revealed by the ICPC.
Okay, let's take a look at other stories on the paper, just like this one on the Punch newspaper on page 2. That states Buhari stops calls to visit North, jet start to Turkey with wife and 7 ministers. We've seen so much outcry by people saying the country is on fire and the president is jetting out.
Yes. I have a very different perspective to this. As Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, he's the number one in line to safeguard our lives and our property. That is it. And he does that by representation.
Right.
That's why he has a cabinet. That's why he has service chiefs. You understand? Who represent him in doing this. People make, sometimes they become more emotional because they want the president in Borno or whatever. Yeah, some of his predecessors did that. You remember during the Ikeja bomb blast, the early days of Obasanjo's presidency. Obasanjo was there. You remember? But he just played to the gallery. Yes. The issue is simple. Ensure that you put mechanism on place that such things don't happen. During the Jonathan's time, Jonathan was in Maiduguri, you remember? He visited some of the places. But now maybe they say that the Buhari should go to Sokoto and
yeah, but how? Yes, how? I mean, if you look at the votes of the president, largely came from the northern part of the region, northern region of the country, and now some are saying that isn't it put on the president some moral obligation to visit these communities for the purpose of reassuring them, for the purpose of confidence building in the president and all of that, isn't it as important as these trips that the president is embarking upon? Or perhaps even more important?
It won't be all correct to compare the trips, whatever that means. It's Africa, Turkey-Africa partnership. Maybe a country like Turkey is dealing with Africa as a country. You can see how that's another thing entirely different. But you don't compare the two. Do you know why? It is not the visit. People should not emphasize on the visit. What is the president doing to forestall the recurrence of such calamities? For every incident, I am not a security personnel, but I think that there should be some sort of investigation. What happened? Is there negligence or not? You remember the Benghazi attack? There was probe. That almost cost Hillary Clinton the presidency. People should be punished. People should be sanctioned.
So is that happening right now?
It is not happening, but you should not since this is the fundamental that the president should do. But you can't say since the president cannot sack a police chief who allows bandits to be on the prowl, or he cannot sack a military commander who's out of sheer negligence, operational incompetence, and what if you allowed subject the lives of people into harm's way. That shouldn't visitation shouldn't replace this. The president, the fundamental essence of government is protection of lives and property.
So some will argue that that's the least that the president can do. I mean, if we are not seeing the sacking of people that are supposed to be responsible for safeguarding the lives of people, the least expected from the president, in the opinion of many, is at least visit these local communities, especially where there are serious cases of these attacks. The last one in Sokoto where about 40 people were burnt, and all of that. So those are the grievances.
Yes, like I said, I don't share these grievances of people. I don't want president to just exchange his fundamental function as protection of lives and property with visitations. See, if the president is going to Sokoto, the president is not a governor. There should be an entire presidential movement. Sokoto that day will be locked down. Yes. And do you know what even it cost the publics? Recently there were about attacks along the Kaduna-Abuja highway almost 5 times. Dozens abducted with some even fatalities and what have you. So we're expecting the president to visit Kaduna maybe 5 times. No. What we should tell the president is, Mr. President, people are dying.
Because of the statements being issued by the presidency, the Minister of Information and Culture to issuing certain statements, the statements are not quite encouraging. And could you think maybe that is why people are, furious about the whole travel?
They are playing to the gallery. You understand? The fundamental thing is to stop these attacks from happening. How the president does it as the commander-in-chief is best not to him. What if the essence people are roasted, maybe 40 people are roasted also, and the president will come and be crying? By the time he returns to Abuja, the bandit campaign will do another attack, then he will return? No.
So what should the people look
the
up
president,
to?
What Nigerians should tell the president is, you have service chiefs. Give them targets. If attack XYZ happen, you are losing your job. We heard of the story of during the IBB regime. If a sort of a police chief, an IG, visited him. So when Lawrence Aneni was wreaking havoc in the south. So when he came, he said, "Where is Aneni?" The police chief went back, and less than 2 weeks, Aneni was arrested.
So are we about to head back to the initial conversation about sack the service chiefs again? Because one will think that, okay, are we really seeing any results? And whether or not changing the service chiefs will actually give us the desired results.
It will.
Going by what we just, what we are experiencing at the moment.
It will. Government should be run as a business. Government service chiefs or whatever shouldn't be like traditional institution. Even emirs and chiefs now have been sacked. But when you hold service chiefs for more than 4 years, 5 years, they become more comfortable. Mr. Ayuba, just look at it. If you know, as a commissioner of police, let's say in Nasarawa or Kogi or Niger, and there is an incident, and if you look, most of these incidents, police have prior knowledge. They got intelligence. They have informants that tell them, okay, so thing, but they stay back.
Could it be that they are helpless, even the service chief? Could it be that they are helpless in the sense that if you look at what they have, the manpower that they have to work with, and the hardware that in terms of arms that they have, whether or not that is sufficient to enable them perform their functions?
Going by the budgetary figures in the last 6 years, monies for hardware, military hardware and equipment is not a problem. Look at the 2022 proposed budget. Look at what is going to the defense. It's not a problem.
So what really is the problem?
The problem is some people have been appointed and they believe that it's their birthright to be there, whether they work or they don't. And they believe that whatever happens, they are not going to be sacked. Government should be run like a business. If you are a bank manager, you have a target. If you can't meet your target, you don't need to be fired. You don't need to be there to be fired. But you know that your responsibility is to stop XYZ, and you are not doing it, and you know nothing will happen. There is no consequence. So it is not about visitation. The people will not be any happier when they see the president's face. Tell me that, okay, the police chief has been sacked. Whoever is coming as active whatever will sit up and will put his best. But when you know that your responsibility is to protect this place, but out of negligence or what have you, you refuse to do it. And there are attacks, and lots of lives have been lost. Property worth billions has been lost. And you know there won't be consequence. Why can't you just relax? So that's the problem. I don't want, how many visitations will the president make across the country?
We do hope, the whole security situation in the country
improves.
Is brought to an end, because really people who are dying, on a daily basis.
So it is not, you should stop those killings.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing your perspectives with us on the program. We look forward to having you again. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Now, we've been speaking with editor, 21st Century Chronicle, Nuruddin Abdullah, and he's our newspaper reviewer for the day. We'll take a short break now, and then when we come back, we'll take a look at other discussions on the program. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that you look at the situation,
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
because I have said that
latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the TrustTV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search TrustTV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
All right, welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Daybreak on Trust Television. It's now time for our first discussion on the program. Now, 1 in every 3 Nigerians have plans to migrate out of the country. The reason is not far-fetched. The song on the lips of everyone is insecurity of their lives and properties, dilapidated economy, corruption, and terrorism. The havoc being wreaked by rebellious individuals is deadly across everywhere in the country. Insecurity in Nigeria is backed by corruption and corrupt people in every sector. Inactive leaders have also contributed much to the escalation of social vices in the nation. Now, many northerners have fled their homes to take refuge in IDP camps and neighboring countries. Kidnapping, the new booming business in the nation, has arrested the interest of many as top and average individuals are being kidnapped for ransom. In tense situations, human tends to resort to fights. Different sects now sprout from every corner of the country in means to protect themselves and their loved ones. Illegal arms are also now domestic commodities. But before we go into to look at some of the perspectives around this issue, let's take a look at this report by our reporter, Chijoke Okafo.
The essence of this procession and this gathering is to protest and to show our anger and our unhappiness with the way things are going in this country, security-wise.
Road transport is the most commonly used form of transportation in Nigeria. It is important and cheap, and most citizens rely on it to move from city to city and from state to state. The primary means of transportation in Nigeria, roads, convey more than 80% of all traffic in the country. Expressways connect the major cities and the rural areas. With insecurity on the rise, motorists ply these roads with fear of the unknown.
The belief of Nigeria is whatever happened, they normally say from God. If not, really the road is not safe. Because our security, we have inadequate security on this road. Because our drivers normally complain. Either when you move from here to Jere, you see army checkpoint. From you, before you reach Kaduna, you saw nothing. So that's what normally our drivers normally complain.
Even with the availability of trains to convey passengers from Abuja to Kaduna, most people would rather travel by road. However, frequent cases of bandit attacks and abductions have become a major source of concern for motorists, as the assurance of getting to their destination safely is not guaranteed.
I feel insecure sometimes and bad, and our government, they are not really helping at all. Because sometimes the kidnapping, the stealing and everything that's been going on in the road, the government are not really helping. They say security is on the road, but sometimes when those things are actually going on, you can't find any security nearby to come to the citizen aid, which is very bad.
Some members of the NURTW here in Zuba have expressed deep concerns and dissatisfaction over the unending cases of attacks by bandits on the expressway. Most of them say they have been neglected and abandoned by the government and security agencies to protect themselves from the deadly armed men.
We manage this with all prayers. With prayers, everything possible. That we don't have security personnel along us with our drivers. What I will tell the Mr. President is that being as a citizen, number one citizen in Nigeria, you have to put more effort for this road because of all these bandits.
This is the Abuja-Kaduna Highway, and it is also the road leading to Zaria, Kano, and other parts of northern Nigeria. This is the Yuletide season, and a lot of Nigerians are taking the risk to ply this road. No one knows for certain when the issues of kidnappings, banditry, and killings along this highway will end, but the populace are optimistic that the menace will soon be tamed. From the Abuja-Kaduna Highway, Chijoke Okafo, Trust TV News.
All right, and now to give us perspectives on this, we have a security consultant, Stephen Okori, here in the studio with us. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you.
Yeah.
All right, now, quite a lot, from our newspaper reviewer that we just had raised some concerns, that looks like Nigeria seem to be in like a conundrum right now. We have people in places of authority that are supposed to ensure the safety of Nigerians. But even when they fail in delivering that, nothing seems to be happening. Do you share in that thought?
Very well. I share in the thought because we should be able to take responsibility for our actions or inactions. While we are failing, we should take responsibility, and the people that have hired us to do such jobs should also penalize us for failing in our responsibilities. Situations where people are not penalized, it doesn't serve as deterrent to people that are still not performing the tasks that they are given to do. So I share in that thought. When you fail in your responsibilities, it's either you're penalized or fired, so that when other people come on board, they will live up to their responsibilities to see that the job is done.
Okay. Now, in recent times, we've seen, outcry from the public. Just of recent, we've seen on social media the hashtag North is bleeding, and even coming out to protest, the insecurity situation in the country. Do you think this is going to change anything for Nigerians?
First of all, I want to say that it is important as citizens we will begin to look at for how to take care or take charge of our own personal security beyond what the government is doing. Whether we like it or not, personal security is a very important factor in determining the safety of people at any given time. But you see, we have this mindset that nothing can happen. Forgetting that even people that are victims, they have also that same mindset that nothing can happen to them. So it's important for us to see how to put some of these personal security measures in place beyond what the government is doing, so that we can, because as it is, personal security for yourself and your loved ones and family members, it's very important now at this point in time.
So when you talk about personal security, to what degree or to what extent can Nigerians actually protect themselves?
Okay.
Because most times when we say things like that, it looks like, all man for himself. To your tent or Israel.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like. So, to what extent can Nigerians actually, protect themselves? What can they do at their level?
Okay. See, there are certain things that we do, knowingly or unknowingly, that gives us up to, for instance, to kidnappers. I say, for instance, you go to the social media and you publicize yourself, your activities and all that. If you have a party in your house or something and you post it on the social media, you know how far such information can go. and you don't know who's even watching the social media and watching you. So you are giving up yourself and your loved ones, to kidnappers. They can become your guests if they watch such things on the social media. So there's need for us at this critical time to live a low-profile life, a moderate life. You don't show all that anymore. There's no need. We don't live in the safest of Nigeria. Right. So I want to say that prevention is better than cure. So when we avoid certain things, like for instance, you go to a public place and you begin to make phone calls that has to do with financial transactions, and you begin to make those calls and forgetting that there are certain people around you.
Yeah, but we've seen cases where bandits attack and kidnap people who are not even, they don't even look like money anywhere. They don't even look like they have a lot of money, yet they are targets. Some of these villagers that can barely even afford 3 square meals. So what do you say about that?
Yeah, you see, these bandits we're talking about, there are some of them that go very low as that, picking people from villages and local communities. Depending on the amount of money they get. It could be 10,000, it could be 20,000 at that particular point in time. So I'm looking at it holistically, where certain issues like that or challenges can be avoided if we try to put certain personal security measures in place. So that's the angle I'm coming from.
Okay. Now let's quickly take a look at the video, about the Northeast Bleeding protest. And when we come back, you're going to be reacting to that.
Okay.
Look.
Everyone in this country, regardless of where you come from, is aware of the nature of security of Nigeria, and people are aware that nobody is sleeping with his 2 eyes closed right now, and then nobody is doing anything. Our leaders don't seem to care. They seem to care more about book launch and some other things that are not important security-wise, and that is why we are here to call on these guys. We are the electorate. We are the ones that send them over there. They're supposed to be our own slaves and our own servants. We should be the sovereign. The sovereign ones. Constitution of Nigeria conferred sovereignty on the people of this country.
We are objecting to the inaction of the government. We all know that loss of life, property, and things related to that become bushfire effect in Nigeria.
We are protesting against the deterioration of insecurity, not only in northern Nigeria, but Nigeria as a whole. Unfortunately, we have come out to protest, but the Commissioner of Police sent his people to stop us, which actually we are not happy, because we know, based on the provision of the 1999 Nigerian constitutions and the other international laws and conventions, we have every right as civilized and law-abiding citizens to come out and protest without even getting the permission of the Commissioner of Police.
Now, contrary to what the protesters are saying, the governor of Katsina State has a different view as far as these issues of insecurity is concerned. Take a listen.
If we are talking about the issue of banditry, certainly we have seen some improvements. When we had a comparative analysis before the issuance of the security containment order, what we saw in 3 months when we compared, we saw a drastic drop of over 100% in terms of the rates of kidnappings, killings, and associated crimes with banditry. So the incidents we had last week had nothing to do with banditry attack. It was purely an assassination by unknown killers, which the police and other security agencies are working around the clock to unravel what had happened, because he was killed, my commissioner was killed by an unknown assassin, and not a single pin was stolen in his house. So you could see that this was a pure crime that has to be investigated for us to know the root causes and why and who.
Well, there you have it, the governor of Katsina State, Bello Masari, with his own thoughts, as far as the fight against insecurity is concerned. But let me throw it to our guest in the studio. Do you think that we are taking the right steps? I mean, I've asked this question for like the umpteenth time now. Are we really taking the right steps, in addressing this issue?
Yes. I want to say that we are taking the right steps. But in taking the right steps, the application matters. Are we really applying the steps we are taking? Because when we talk about taking the right steps now, if we have hardware, ammunitions, weapons, and all that, it's the right step. We have the personnel. Yes. Now, applying the steps is the issue. Do you have the adequate manpower to take out or carry out these tasks? How well are we applying it? So, for the right steps, yes. But the application for me is a problem. So, if there's need for us to look at it, appraise their whatever they've been doing, to see if the application is really reading results. So for me, I think that there's need for all the relevant agencies to see how to go back to the drawing board.
Okay, so could you talk to us, about the role, corruption has to play in all of this?
You see, corruption has a huge role to play. You see, it's very disheartening to see past service chiefs being tried by the EFCC or the ICPC. For very recently I saw where a former chief of army staff he's been tried for corruption charges to the tune of about 14 billion naira. These are monies meant for arms and ammunition. We have seen in this country where fake bullets and all that were imported under a former chief of army staff. So all this boils down to corruption. So even the late Badi, he was being tried for corruption charges before he died. So it affects the whole process, because when these monies that are being released are not judiciously used for the purpose that they are being released, it affects the whole exercise.
Yeah, so, being tried is one thing,
yes,
on the one hand, but
yes,
securing conviction is also another thing,
yes,
on the other hand. So with all the trials that we have been seeing of these people, it still doesn't seem to be stopping corruption. We have, for instance, also the National Assembly that is supposed to play that check and balance, on the executive arm and even, the military and all of that. But we are also hearing that they themselves, the Auditor General, for instance, is uncovering multi-billion naira fraud in the National Assembly, spendings and all of that. So where does that leave Nigerians? The person who is supposed to watch, others is also
culpable
of the issues that we are looking at. So how do we really deal with this thing, this corruption?
You see, corruption in Nigeria has become cancerous. Very, very, very cancerous, that it will be very difficult for it to heal, no matter how you want to go about it. We have all these institutions that they have put in place to see how to curb or reduce the rate it goes. But even amongst the institutions that saddle the responsibility of doing what we are talking about, even amongst themselves too, they are even culpable. Imagine EFCC being found wanting in his or her duties, ICPC as well and all that. So for me, as far as they are Nigerians and they are in this system, I think that it's a very difficult task to see how to, no matter how you want to go about it. If you bring certain measures that will checkmate, they try to see how to derive other means of trying to steal this money.
When you think about policies like the single treasury account,
yes,
when you think about such policies, you think that, in fact, people were applauding and commending the president.
Yes.
But it appears that some public officials have found their way around it. That's to circumvent the process.
Exactly.
So is corruption now unstoppable?
You want me to say yes to that? If you want me to say yes, yes. If you want me to say yes to that, I will say yes. It's unstoppable. As we speak, there are people that are thinking of how to steal. There are deriving means on how to go about it. So it's endemic, and it's a worrisome situation.
So what are the approaches of ending this?
Right.
Sorry?
What approaches do we adopt if the ones we've used are not working?
Now, I think that the justice system in trying to see how to convict people that are already in court, it's very slow. So it doesn't even serve as deterrent to people that are even in the system of trying to steal or are already stealing, or potential people that want to come and steal. The system is weak. The justice system is very, very weak and very slow. You can't be trying somebody for alleged corruption. You have like almost 10 years going. Look at, what's her name, Dizani. They keep recovering her looted stolen funds. But where is she today? If the government can go and extradite, what's his name, Abdul Rashid Maina, what's stopping the government from extraditing Dizani from wherever she is to come and face charges? And what's in it? Even we, citizens, we even celebrate these people that even steal. You know, I'm sorry to say, what's his name? James Ibori. He was convicted in the UK. He served jail term. But when he returned back to Nigeria, what happened? It was a Thanksgiving in church. So, what are we saying?
Is it because of poverty? Or why are people, you know, celebrating these kind of...
Is the governor of Delta State, is he poor? But he set up a committee to welcome him. They even wore a uniform to celebrate him during Thanksgiving. So this is the part, I don't want to even talk about it. In other countries, other climes, we see where people are jailed, killed for corruption charges when they find them guilty. But we are celebrating them here. Before Mena was caught and sentenced to jail, I was listening to him on this, what do you call this radio program, Ahmed Issa. That is whatever program that he does, Brekete Family. He was given the opportunity to call one time like that and come and hear what he was saying, as if he was innocent. But come, look at the outcome. So it's a very worrisome situation. We celebrate criminals in this country, people that steal public funds that is meant for this country to be fixed. So we still have part of the blame for celebrating them. And you see, one of the reasons I feel causes this is that when somebody is given an opportunity to come and serve in whatever position and the person doesn't steal, if the person leaves office, the citizens or his people will begin to say that something is wrong with him. He was made minister for 4 years. He went in the way he went in, that was how he came out. So you want to steal, you know, so that you won't be insulted, you know. So even the followers too.
Okay, so
aid such.
Talking about our judicial system, there are those who are saying that, look, this our principle of innocent until proven guilty is part of the problem with the judicial system.
I agree with
Why
that.
don't we have a policy that suggests, look, you are guilty until proven innocent, which is, you know, the other way around.
Yes.
Do you think that we should perhaps consider that?
Very well. But in doing that, who are the people that are supposed to do it? Members of the National Assembly. But if you go to the Senate now, majority of them has issues with cases to answer in court. And people like that are in the National Assembly making laws. So imagine a member of the National Assembly raises a motion and say, if you have a corruption case against you in court, you shouldn't aspire for any elective position. With such a motion or bill, will it fly? No. It will fly. Because majority of them have issues in the court. So they will kill it. So that's another angle to it. But I am in support that if you have issues with the Nigerian state bordering on corruption in court, they should even think of giving you a form. INEC should just disqualify you from that point. But people will begin to say that you are tampering on their rights.
So in your opinion, what aspect of the Nigeria's judicial system needs a kind of reformation,
All.
like overhaul?
All. Because the cases, they are in stages. From the state high court to the federal high court to the Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court. So I feel all the stages have issues. They need to be over. They need to do something very drastic about it. You cannot have issues bordering on corruption from the State High Court to the Court of Appeal, or from the Federal High Court to the Court of Appeal to Supreme Court, and it will take like a whole number of years that you can't. So imagine how long it took Dare's case and Jolly Jame before they were sentenced to jail. Over 10 years. Why? Something is wrong. So where are the issues? We should rise to the occasion. We should rise up to the occasion and see that these things are dealt with.
All right, what are the lessons for Nigerians to learn, as far as this issue is concerned? Because some have faulted the issue of the electioneering process in Nigeria as one of the major problems why we are unable to get it right. We do not elect leaders that have the interest of the people at heart. So what can the people do on their part in ensuring that people that are credible, that have integrity, occupy public offices?
Do they have any say? I heard you talking about, your last guest talking about direct and indirect primaries. When you put it at direct primaries, you have reduced the number from the larger population that are supposed to choose who they want from that primary level, handpicked people that they call delegates into a secluded or whatever place for them to choose. Meanwhile, the larger population are outside. So they don't participate at that primary level to choose who they want. So these people that we don't want buy their way because they have the wherewithal to pay delegates to enable them have the ticket at the end of the day. So from that level, we have started seeing issues. So I feel that the larger population should choose who they want.
Some are saying that that's not where the problem is really. That the problems are more attitudinal than this, issues with laws.
Yes, it's attitudinal because the political class have impoverished the general public. So when they give them stipends, they end up giving their votes to them. So at that level, they need to have change of attitude. But are they willing to have change of attitude? When they're interested they will tell you that I want to collect my own now. Because when the person leaves and gets to his office, they won't see him anymore. So they are interested in getting. But I am very happy that I saw a lady during the Anambra election where she was offered 5,000 naira and she declined. That she wanted to vote for who she wanted. And she voted for the APGA candidate or so. And the governor came out to reward her with a sum of 1 million naira or something. So if we have people like that will decline monetary inducement, and say, okay, I want to vote my conscience. Because from what we are saying, it's as if the votes are counting now, because I've seen where APGA that is perceived to be an Eastern party winning elections even in the northern states, So the votes are counting. So if we change our attitude and say, no, we don't want this monetary inducement anymore, we want to vote for candidates of our choice, I think we'll see how to make ends from there.
Okay. Now let's quickly take a short break. And when we come back, the conversation will continue. Do stay.
right, thank you for staying with us. And if you're just joining, you're watching Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja, right from Trust TV's headquarters here. Now, we are discussing insecurity with security consultant Stephen Okore, and he's given us perspectives on the rise in cases of insecurity in the country. Now, we are talking about the nexus between, politics and security. In 2015, we'll take the classical example of the election in 2015. Majority of Northerners at the time believed that the person of the president is the right man for the job, looking at his track record. I mean, he's a retired general, he's a man of integrity, I mean, he's going to fight corruption, headstrong and all of that. These were the arguments at the time, and so people, came out en masse and voted for the man they think is right for the job. But today, the reverse is the case. The northern part of the country is the worst hit when it comes to insecurity and all of that. In that sense, what do you think went wrong? The people are not enjoying the dividends of democracy. What went wrong? Is it the man or the system?
I would say the two, the man and the system. Why I said the two is that both the man and the operators of the system are human beings. The system cannot work in isolation. They are piloted by human beings that are Nigerians. But I want to say that it's a different ball game when you are out of government and you are aspiring to come into government, or where you are in a position and you want to come into government. Now, when you come to government after aspiring, you begin to play politics and otherwise. Because you need to survive. You need to remain on your seat as president. So there's usually this conflicting interest that plays out. People that you don't want to fail them when they put certain requests to you. For instance, if somebody that contributes or contributed to his election nominated somebody to be chief of army staff, for instance, because at that level, all these appointments are political. And the chief of army staff is not performing very well. Taking a big stick to take a decision, a decisive decision by sacking the chief of army staff, for instance, he won't be able to do that. Because in trying to do that, he begins to think of the person, the political juggernaut or something that nominated or suggested to the president that I want this XYZ general to be chief of army staff. He begins to think of the person. If I do this, how will the person feel? He doesn't want to hurt the person.
But the lives of Nigerians are involved here.
You see, that's
so what is at stake and what's more important?
What is important is the lives of Nigerians, because you have taken or sworn to an oath to protect lives and property of citizens of this country.
But it looks like when any government representative who has the interest of the people at heart does not have the ability to survive Nigeria's political harsh environment.
Exactly, they don't have. So they want to see how to balance it, but in the process of trying to balance it, it's a wrong decision. So we need leaders that will take decisive decisions, that have that political will. Because whether we like it or not, issues bordering on security, the buck stops at the president's table. If the National Security Advisor is not doing his job the way he expects him to do, what is wrong with letting him go? Let another person come on board. And it's applicable to other heads of security agencies that we have. You see, it's a situation where you have heads of security agencies and like 99% of them come from the north. I don't think it's something that is palatable to hear. The DSS head is from the north, customs head is from the north, immigration from the north, police from the north.
Do you think that that's a problem? In terms of, I mean, if you look at some of the arguments that have been made by the presidency is that, look, there are hierarchies in these systems, in these structures, and people have given their lives to the service of that institution, you know, for years, and then it became, you know, it became a time when they are supposed to ascend. Would you just take them out simply because of where they are coming from? These are some of the arguments that have been raised. So how important is that really in this?
Haven't you seen where somebody is supposed to be head of the army or the navy or the air force or the police was not picked from amongst the people that were supposed to be picked, and they went beneath them, and the other ones were forcefully retired? So it's a political appointment. So anybody can assume that position. Since this present government came on board, we've had these issues of majority of them from the north.
And we also have the issue of...
And that is why we're not getting results. We should look out the other way.
There's also the issue of the fact that, well, these are the most affected. These are the people most affected by the insecurity in the country. So perhaps they have a better insight or better understanding of what the situation is, you know, in their communities and all of that. So is that an argument that should hold any water for you?
You expect the argument to hold water? Are you seeing result? The fact that they have better insight about their environment or terrain because they come from the north, are we seeing result? The north is the worst hit. I feel that there are certain things that are happening because you are from the community. So when you want to take decisive action against your people, you begin to pull back. So I feel that we should try and see how to balance it.
Okay, so are you saying if there was diversification, you know, in these appointments, the situation would have turned out different?
It's very possible, very likely. And that's why I said there's need for us to see how to appraise the situation so far and try and see how to re-strategize and see how to go about it. So if we're not getting results, because as far as I'm concerned, the security situation in the north, we're not getting results at all. And everybody, all these people are from the north. So what is it they are not doing? Why are they not doing it? Why are they not fixing the situation in the north? So we should look out somewhere. Perhaps if you bring somebody from the east or from the south to head some of these agencies that we're talking about, is a way of changing strategy as well.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming on the program and sharing your perspectives with us. We'll round up the discussion here. We've been speaking with Stephen Okore, security consultant, and giving us perspectives on recent trends of insecurity in the country. Thank you for coming. We look forward to having you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Now let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll be taking a look at other discussions on the program. Please stay with us.
Commercially viable, Kano is known to be the Nigerian center of commerce, trade hub for the sub-Saharan Africa, and perhaps the nation's second most industrialized city. Its famous Kantinkwari textile market, the popular Abubakar Rimi market in Sabongari, the busiest multi-purpose Singa market, the Africa's largest grain market in Dawanau, and of course the Asian Kurmi market all tells a story of a promising economic opportunities in Kano. The industrial development of Kano started at between 1920 and 1930, when the then Emir of Kano, Abdullahi Bayero, established Kano Waterworks, which was used to generate electricity.
The Emir of Kano may Allah continue to rest his soul in perfect peace. He is the Alpha and Omega, and it's like he bulldozed his way to do that, because the contribution of the colonial masters is only about 20,000 pounds and in kind, by giving, I think, the engineer also, by providing the engineer that supervised the work. But the 200,000+ pounds was sourced and paid by Kano Native Authority, Kano NE, which is under the leadership of the King Emir of Kano that time.
By 1940, real industrialization in Kano began with the establishment of mainly soap and some few confectionery factories. But the state witnessed its industrial boom following the federal government import substitution policy of 1970, during which Bompai and subsequently Chalawa and Sharaɗa industrial estate were established, with over 500 industries and factories functioning then in full capacity.
By mid-80s to early 90s, based on membership of Manufacturing Association of Nigeria and non-members of MAN, there were about 500 industries in Kano in between that time. But the MAN members are 200 and something, and non-MAN members are almost 200 and something. So making about 500 as at that time, which shows the highest number of industries in Kano.
The significance of this industrial boom, however, led to a massive job creation, which lifted thousands out of poverty, provide government with billions of naira in revenue, led to a significant reduction of high cost of living, and improved Kano's foreign investments. Unfortunately, from early 90s to date, things seem to have fallen apart for Kano, with a little below 150 industries operating far below the factory's capacity at between 20 to 30%. Well, this is how it is behind me here in most industrial estate here in Kano, a dump site. These industries have been closed for many years, and there is nothing inside, only that people used to come and dump refuse here. And this is happening in almost all parts of Kano's industrial estate of Sharaɗa, Chalawa and Bompai industrial estates. In Ajuket capital, the problem of raw materials and high cost of electricity tariff are some of the major factors responsible for Kano's industrial crisis.
As of today, the cost of electricity in Kano is about 72 naira per kilowatt hour, while that of Lagos and Ogun axis is about from 40 to 50 something naira. Why am I saying this? From a layman's point of view, they may not understand the implication of this. Like this factory you're talking about now, we are paying close to 30 million naira per month for electricity. So if we have the same company with the same capacity in Lagos or Ogun, to be paying roughly around 19 or 20 million naira as per the cost of electricity. If you multiply that by 12, how much is it in a month?
Despite this disturbing status of Kano's industrial sector, few industries are managing to keep body and souls together. Hussaina Ahmad manages a small oil processing mill. With few machines and workers, she can only operate based on the availability of her raw materials, while this plastic processing factory is operating a little above 60%.
High rates of electricity tariff is very high. And also we have challenges of social amenities. Before to come to this factory, definitely you see our roads. We have bad roads. And also we have challenges of lack of raw materials due to COVID-19. Because most of the granite, I'm producing granite, I'm manufacturing granite oil and the cottonseed oil. All these products, the raw materials is not from Kano. We are getting it from Gombe, from Maiduguri sites, from Benin side, Cotonou, from Chadi, from Cameroon. So due to the COVID, you know, there is some problems of going there to buy the raw material. And also since it is non-Nigerian product, non-Nigerian raw material, so there is high rate of exchange now because dollar is high. Even SEPA is high because Chad and Cameroon are using SEPA. So most of the time we are buying dollars to go and make change there to buy the granite. Last year by now, I'm buying 1 ton of granite at 300,000, which is expensive at that time. But today, I'm buying granite at 590. No, ton. It means like 59,000 per bag.
However, with the federal government recent ban on rice importation, agro-allied industries may have had a cause to smile. This rice processing mill is one of them. With a significant number of workforce, modern rice processing equipment, and uninterrupted supply of raw materials, things appeared to be moving well for the rice processors, just like this flour mill processing factory, which operated at about 90% capacity, having a modern machineries and a relatively steady supply of raw materials. Nevertheless, manufacturers believe that there are many lapses to cover if Kano is to regain its industrial lost glory.
Doing business in Kano has relatively a lot of challenges. Challenges being that we are in the hinterland and the infrastructure from Lagos to here is very poor, so there's no rail infrastructure, there's no, the road infrastructure is very bad as well. So a truck would leave Lagos, it would take somewhere between 2 to 10 days on the road before it arrives here, depending on the problems they face on the roads. So this is very, very difficult because even diesel has to come from Lagos. So everything that has to come to us has to come to Lagos. And then additionally, the cost of that transportation gets added onto the cost of the products, making it uncompetitive if we look at the price of products that is already manufactured at the port cities.
Challenges are there. And like in any other aspect of life, there is bound to be challenges. But we will continue to raise our voice for the authorities to come to our aid, so that as they have done in many other areas, they should also continue to help, so that we can have a smooth operating environment where the existing companies will continue to thrive, and others outside will also be able to come in.
Unless raw materials becomes adequate, electricity supply remains uninterrupted, and government policies are properly implemented, the future of Kano's industrial sector may likely continue to remain bleak. Idris Jibrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
Well, there you have it. I mean, talking about Nigeria's industries and their struggles, in a time like this, it's quite very sad that some companies are folding up, in the midst of the difficulties that manufacturers actually face in Nigeria. When you talk about the issue of power, in Nigeria, I've had a course to also visit, Kaduna State, where in the past you have a lot of textile mills there, creating jobs for thousands of Nigerians. You see a situation where one company have thousands of employees, about 5,000, in some cases, and all of them are folded up. And yet we talk about, unemployment in Nigeria, and of course, you could see the direct link between that, level of unemployment and the forms of insecurity that challenges that we face, today in the country.
A lot of experts have actually, advocated that fixing Nigeria's power problem, would help, forestall all of the situations, we are seeing right now happening in the country. And I really hope that the government does something about this. At least let's have power. That's the least.
I mean, that would do a whole lot. It would change a whole lot. It will enable local manufacturers to be competitive, with their counterparts across the world. And so it will, in the process also, see an expansion in these manufacturing companies, which will create job opportunities for Nigerians. So when we talk about job creation and all of that, I think the private sector is where to go. How can government create that environment where private entities can thrive in businesses? And that would have solved Nigeria's problem about more than 50% of it, because these issues of recruitment of bandits and Boko Haram fighters and all of that will no longer be there, because people would be engaged. They will have things
something to
doing. So that's also very important. Now let's also take a look at business roundup on the show just before we take a look at also the sports update. So Chamong Dabeng, I beg your pardon, Chamong Dabeng puts together business roundup for us this morning. Take a look.
Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency NAMASA plans to partner with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development to tackle illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing activities in Nigerian waters. The Director General of NAMASA, Bashir Jamal, who enlisted the additional support recently at a meeting with the Minister of Agriculture, Mahmoud Abubakar, described illegal fishing as a threat to the livelihood of legitimate fishing investors and also decried exposure of the marine environment to avoidable pollution through such unlawful activities. The DG, who also sought closer working relationships with the Agriculture Ministry and urged the minister to key into the Deep Blue project, considering the array of benefits it holds for agricultural investors in the marine environment. Federal government plans to upgrade the 330, 132, 33 kilovolts Yobe power transmission substation and expand its capacity to make electricity more readily available. The Minister of Power, Abubakar Aliyu, stated this during an inspection visit to the Yobe power transmission substation in Damaturu. The minister, represented by the acting managing director and chief executive officer of the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, Sule Abdulaziz, stated that the recent demand for electricity in the area shows that the station does not have the capacity to supply power to Maiduguri, Borno State. Director General of the National Information Technology Development Agency, NIDDA, Kashifu Abdullahi, says blockchain technology plays a key supporting role in the digital transformation agenda of the agency to ease the development of Nigeria into a digital economy. Kashifu, represented by the agency's Director of Information Technology Infrastructure Solutions Department, Usman Abdullahi, made the assertion during the Abuja Blockchain and Crypto Assets Conference and Exhibition 2021. The NIDDA boss explained that blockchain technology would acquaint people with vast opportunities and help overcome challenges. According to him, NIDDA, through its strategic roadmap and action plan SRAP, would be committed to promote emerging technologies with the purpose of building a healthy and enviable information technology ecosystem. Nigeria Export Processing Zones Authority, NEPZA, has opposed certain sections of the proposed Customs Service Reform Bill, saying that it may give a negative effect on the free trade zones in the country. In a statement issued on Thursday in Abuja by its head corporate communications, Martins Ode, giving the Customs Service the power to make regulations in free zones would weaken Nigeria's special economic zones. Ode further stated that NEPZA, in its submission at the ongoing public hearing on the Custom Reform Bill in the House of Representatives, noted that free zones are areas designated to serve as one-stop shop investment hubs, noting that the issue, if not nipped in the bud, would result in either multiple regulations that might be contradictory, thereby creating avoidable legal tussles, or make registration of enterprises unnecessarily cumbersome. He added that the proposed sections of the bill seeking to make the free zones custom controlled zones sought to create anti-ethical free zones customs territory alien to the global free trade zone model and allayed fears of the Nigerian Customs Service about revenue leakages, adding that it had put in place proper customs procedures and regulations to guide investors operating in the zones. African Development Bank AFDB says the newly launched agro-industrial processing zones has the potential to solve the country's poverty, hunger, and foreign exchange challenges in the country. Special Advisor on Industrialization to the President of the AFDB, Banji Oyelaron Oyeyinka, said if properly harnessed, the $538 million initiative will save millions of Nigerians who have been projected to suffer severe hunger and poverty. He said Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zones program is expected to bring economic infrastructure to rural areas of high agricultural potential and take up 19% of Nigeria's land mass, as well as expected to attract private agro-industrialist and entrepreneur investment and benefit over 50 million Nigerians across the 6 geopolitical zones. The first phase of the project will be implemented in 8 states across the 6 geopolitical zones, targeting specific agro-products selected by the states. Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Issa Pantami, says the Federal Executive Council, FEC, has approved the Nigeria Startup Bill during the post-council briefing. He also said 2 ministers have been assigned to ensure its transmission to the National Assembly for appropriate legislative works. According to the minister, the approved bill will replace the National Digital Innovation, Entrepreneurship and Startup Policy. Pantami also explained that the bill is aimed at encouraging young entrepreneurs in the country that have skills and want to do business in the telecommunications sector. That's all for business news. I am Chamun Dabeng.
All right, thank you, Chamun Dabeng. Now let's take a look at what's happening in the sports world with Adeni Ajishafe.
Sunshine Spikers of our volleyball club, Nigeria Immigration Service and Nigerian Police Force recorded victory in their matches in the men's category at the ongoing final phase of the 2021 Nigerian Volleyball Premier League in Abuja. Nigeria Customs Service beat NSCDC 3-1 in the men's match 18 to maintain their unbeaten run. Sunshine Spikers recorded their third win, beating Correctional Service 3-0, while Offa Volleyball Club recorded their second win as they defeated USEM Volleyball Club 3-0. Kano Pillars from a set down to beat Nigeria Immigration Service 3-1 as Nigerian Police Force got their first victory against Chief of Army Staff Spikers 3-1 in the men's match 18. Head coach of Nigerian Police Force, Taiwo Oladipupo, says the win will further boost the morale of the players after losing 3 matches. In the women category, Nigeria Immigration Service won 3-1 over Nigerian Police Force. Ahead of the 2021-2022 league season, League Management Company LMC has adjusted date of match day 1. In the earlier fixtures, match day 1 was scheduled to kick off on the 17th of December, but the football body has decided to rearrange the date. New date release indicated that the match involving MFM FC and Remo Stars at Mobolaji Johnson Arena will be the only game on Friday, 17th of December, as rest of the match day 1 matches have been shifted to Sunday, the 19th of December. Third edition of ValueJet Para Table Tennis Open serves off today at the Molade Okoya Terminus Hall of Teslim Balogun Stadium, Surulere. The 3-day championship, which will be in 45 events, is aimed at shaping up para table tennis players for future events. Chairman of Para Division of the Nigerian Table Tennis Federation (NTTF), Anderson Bankole, says the competition has proven that Nigeria has talents that can compete with the best in the world, as demonstrated in the past world event. Executive Chairman, Lagos State Sports Commission, Shola Ayepeku, says the state remains dedicated to the championship to encourage athletes to work hard in order to be world best. ITTF's representative at the competition, Francisco Nozzo, says the contest will help the world body to establish Nigeria as one of the countries hosting major para tournament next year. Para Table Tennis Championship ends on December 18. Super Eagles and Kaizer Chiefs of South Africa goalkeeper Daniel Akpeyi is among the high-profile players free to sign a pre-contract agreement with any club of their choice by January 2022. Akpeyi joined Kaizer Chiefs in 2019 after an amazing outing with South African club Chippa United. Akpeyi has been able to hold his own despite being among the South African international goalkeepers Kune Itemeleng and Vuma since 2019. Despite Kaizer Chiefs' shaky start to the season, Nigeria International has been outstanding in the league. His contract will expire at the end of the season, and Amakosi are yet to renew offer for the goaltender. Akpeyi is open to joining any other club by January with 6 months remaining on his contract. That's sport news. I am Adeni Ajishafe.
Well, with sports, we wrap up Daybreak for today. As the hashtag goes, the North is bleeding, and we do hope, you know, the whole security situation in the North comes to an end.
Yes, that's true. So we say bye to you. In case you've missed, you can catch up on our social media platforms and also connect with us on YouTube, where you'd find all the contents, you know, there. My name is Ayubelia. Thank you for watching the show. Bye.
And I'm Zainab Bala. See you next week.